Iran has announced a series of coordinated missile and drone strikes targeting U.S. military facilities across several countries, including Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar, marking a significant escalation in the regional conflict. If the claims hold, this would be the widest single wave of Iranian attacks on American military infrastructure since the war began, stretching from the Jordanian desert to the heart of the Gulf. The announcements came through Iran's state broadcaster, IRIB. And as we go through them, keep one thing in mind. These are Tehran's claims, and so far, they come without independent confirmation. Start with the most striking target. According to the statement carried by IRIB, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said its aerospace forces launched several ballistic missiles at Prince Hassan Air Base in Jordan, describing it as part of the U.S. military footprint in the region. The IRGC claimed the strikes destroyed a command and control center and hangars housing MQ-9 drones at the base. Jordan has largely stayed on the edges of this war, which is exactly what makes the claims so significant. If Iranian missiles really reach that target, the map of this conflict just expanded. Separately, Iran's regular army said it launched multiple waves of explosive drone attacks against U.S. military sites in Kuwait and Bahrain. According to IRIB, the military said the drones targeted a Patriot air defense system, an ammunition depot, and a radar site used by U.S. forces in Kuwait, while another wave struck a U.S. communications system and a radar site in Bahrain. The army said the operations were carried out in response to continued U.S. strikes on areas in southern Iran, framing the entire wave as retaliation. Then there is Qatar. In another statement, the IRGC said it fired ballistic missiles at Al Udeid Air Base, the Qatari base that hosts major U.S. military forces and the forward headquarters of U.S. Central Command. The force claimed it destroyed a fighter aircraft maintenance and repair center, along with a command and control center, while Qatar's version points instead to interception. But Qatar tells a different story. Its Ministry of Defense said its air defense systems intercepted a missile attack targeting Qatari territory, and that dispute captures the whole picture. Iranian authorities have released no visual evidence or independent proof of damage at any of the targeted facilities, and there has been no independent confirmation of the claimed strikes or their reported impact.
We vow to take revenge for your pure blood and that of all the martyrs of these two wars, from the criminal and disgraced killers. This revenge is our nation's demand and must certainly be carried out. These criminals, whose list from top to bottom exists, will take the wish for a peaceful death in bed to their graves. They must know that this does not depend on me or other officials. Whether we are here or not, this will be realized, and soon free people across the world will each carry out a part of this divine mission.
The strikes come wrapped in a message from the very top, in what Iranian media presented as his first public message since his father's funeral ceremonies began. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, thanked the crowds who joined the ceremonies, calling the turnout historic and, in his words, enemy-breaking. Then came the vow. We pledge, he declared, to take revenge for your pure blood and all the martyrs of these two wars from the criminal and disgraced killers. This revenge, he said, is the demand of the nation and must certainly take place, regardless of who is in power, with those responsible, in his words, listed from top to bottom. In that message, Iran is not talking about reconciliation. It is talking about revenge as a national mission. And yet, at the very same moment, Iran's diplomats are on the move. Even as the vow echoed, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrived in Oman for talks focused on the Strait of Hormuz. According to reports, the discussions center on arrangements for the safe passage of commercial ships, while Washington demands that Tehran publicly guarantee it will stop attacks on vessels, keep all shipping lanes open, and refrain from imposing any tolls on transit. During the war, Iran has tried to tighten its grip over the strait, the choke point that carried roughly a fifth of global oil before the conflict. Missiles in the air, negotiators at the table, both at once. All of this raises the question war planners keep returning to. If Washington ever ordered a ground offensive, what would actually stand in its way? According to Military Watch magazine, Iran's armored forces were built heavily around British Chieftain and American M60 tanks, platforms the outlet argues were outmatched by Iraq's T-72s in the 1980s. After the death of Ruhollah Khomeini in 1989, who had opposed closer ties with Moscow, Iran rapidly expanded cooperation with the Soviet Union, signing a licensed production deal for 550 T-72S tanks. But the collapse of the USSR cut that short, with fewer than 350 produced, supplemented by 104 Polish-built T-72 M1s and another 37 from Belarus. Iran's answer was to build its own. In March 2017, it unveiled the Karrar, translated as Striker in Farsi, an indigenous main battle tank that Military Watch assesses as approaching the capabilities of 1970s Soviet designs. The tank reportedly integrates an electro-optical fire control system, a laser rangefinder, a ballistic computer, a stabilized gun sight, and improved night fighting capability, a substantial leap over previous domestic designs. But the program never reached large-scale production, held back by the demands of advanced armor metallurgy, high-performance engines, and precision manufacturing. Iran has modernized its M60 fleet under the Soleiman 402 program and unveiled a more impressive successor to the Zulfikar in 2025. Military Watch's verdict is blunt. Iran's armored war machine, it says, remains very limited, even by late Cold War standards. That assessment cuts both ways, though. It suggests Iranian armor would struggle badly against a modern American offensive in open battle. But it also explains why Iran's entire military doctrine has moved elsewhere, toward the missiles, drones, and asymmetric naval forces now doing the fighting across the Gulf. Tehran is not preparing to win a tank war. It is preparing to make any invasion and any occupation unbearably expensive. Which brings us to the image that stole the week. As millions lined the streets for the funeral ceremonies, a Russian-built Iranian MiG-29, armed with R-73 air-to-air missiles, was seen escorting the aircraft carrying Khamenei's coffin. It was more than a military escort. It was a carefully choreographed show of strength. Washington has repeatedly portrayed Iran's military capacity as heavily degraded by the war. The flyover appeared designed to answer that claim directly, a signal that at least part of Iran's fighter fleet remains operational, and that Tehran wants its people to see the skies as guarded. In this conflict, even a funeral procession doubles as a message, and the choice of aircraft mattered. The MiG-29 is one of the most capable fighters left in Iran's aging inventory, and putting it in the sky, armed, over the capital, in front of every camera in the country, was a statement aimed as much at domestic audiences as foreign ones. The government wanted Iranians to see their skies guarded, and Washington to see that Iran still had fighters in the air. Step back, and the pattern of this moment comes into focus. Iran is claiming strikes across 4 countries, claims that remain unverified and, in Qatar's case, directly disputed. Its new leader is framing revenge as a national and religious mission. Its foreign minister is negotiating the future of the world's most important oil choke point, and its military is staging visual displays of resilience for the cameras. Some of it is fact, some of it is claim, and much of it is signal. But the direction is unmistakable. The war is widening in geography, hardening in rhetoric, and yet still leaving a narrow lane open for diplomacy in Muscat. Which of those tracks wins out, the missiles or the talks, will shape not just Iran's next move, but the future of the entire Gulf. The coming days will offer clues. Watch whether independent evidence emerges from Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, or Qatar to substantiate or deflate the strike claims. Watch whether the Muscat talks produce anything concrete on shipping through Hormuz. And watch whether Mojtaba Khamenei's vow stays in the realm of ceremony or begins to show up in operational decisions. A war this wide rarely stands still for long, and every one of these threads is capable of deciding where it goes next. Subscribe to WLA for daily geopolitical analysis.